tell you, I remember my great-great-grandmother and my great-great-grandfather on both sides. On my mother's side, my grandmother was Indian from the country. Not in New Orleans, but one of them little plantations near New Orleans. Grandma Rosa. She has long, straight black hair. I remember her very well. She was a tough woman. My great-great-grandfather had a plantation. That's my mother's side. And my father's side, my great-great-grandfather, I think he must have came from Dominica or something, because he used to always brag. He said, I was never in slavery. His mother, my father's grandmother, came from one of those islands in slavery, you see? But they couldn't speak English. It's from, I don't know, from the Congo or what. I remember my nan and my great, and I remember my great-great. Ma, she was a tall black woman, spoke nothing but French. We, kids coming up, we go into school, they'd speak French to us, Creole, and we'd answer back in English. You see, because I learned Creole from a child. We spoke Creole among ourselves, too. We had our own language, our own thing, sure. You see, like Manuel Perez's band, Piku, they couldn't even speak English good, but a hell of a musician. And they speak among themselves. On the bandstand, they speak Creole. You know, and it was natural. It's only the other generation that came up and then spoke English, you see. You got a sort of a West Indian beat in it, you know, mo pale mesa, ay, 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 mo pale mesa. It's swinging, ay, 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 mo pale mesa. You see, that's a rhythmic from I don't know from where. On Mardi Gras Day, they sing nothing but Creole, you see, they're talking nothing but Creole. But they compose, they come in the street and they're swinging. Those are naturals. Mon pied, mon parle mesa. Mon parle mesa, mon parle mesa. On va go mon parle mesa. Mon parle mesa, mon parle mesa. On va go d'ailleurs, mon parle mesa. Mon parle mesa, mon parle mesa. Mesa. Going way back, I remember they were prejudiced among themselves. But they weren't prejudiced against the white people because we had white families living next door to us and all like that. And my grandmother used to pass food over the fence and just give us a little taste because we could cook, you know. And we were raised up different. I didn't know nothing about no prejudice until I got to be big boy. And then I said, hey, wait a minute here. And I resented it. The white bands used to copy us. They'd take our numbers and they're first one to record, though. They were the first ones to record in 1918 or 1919. That time he wasn't recording, you know, had no record dates. We had Johnny Lala. And all those cats, Italians. Johnny Lala was a trumpet player. His father was a butcher in the Tremere market, and he used to like music. And we were all like one family, you know. We didn't know nothing about none of that stuff. No. My mother took me and my father took me to French opera when I was a small kid. We used to go sit down any place we wanted to. They had no discrimination. We'd go sit down and listen to this thing and come back. I remember when I was a kid, around 8 years old, on St. Bernard and Durban, it was a big hardware store. They used to speak Creole. Now, he was real French, but he spoke Creole because, by being in the neighborhood so long. That was before my time, old Gagne. And he had the first record I ever heard. And when we were kids, until 9 o'clock, we'd run on the corner and sit on the steps and listen to this Caruso and all this singing. We thought it was magic, coming from nowhere, the music. And my grandmother, she used to sit on the steps and listen to all this classical stuff, you see. Rhythm was natural. We come up with that in our blood. Humming our tunes, we were kids, but it was in our head and things like that. We used to sit on the sidewalk together. We were kids. We used to stop the traffic at night. Paul Brown used to get a bucket. That was his drums. Sidney, myself, and Natty Dominic. He was trying to play trumpet. We had all the gang, second line. Those that couldn't play, they were marching. And people like in my father's time, they said, listen at those boys. And we were copping the real musicians that we heard, Sidney was very fast on his instrument. He was older than me. And we'd get together on the gutter curb at night. And we'd be playing these things by head, and swinging just like, the old timers. And then when I got to be around 15 years old, when I was in school, I knew my instrument then. Then the men used to hire me. I was a kid. My Uncle Joe, too. He is the one that inspired me. You see, I had music around me all my life. And I used to take his instrument when he wasn't there and put it together and play a little thing. He didn't know it, though. And when I got to 10, he said, I'm going to buy you a little clarinet. I had a little flute. A little nickel flute, and I used to play this little thing, all them little funny tunes, like boom, 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 ba-da-dee, ba-dam, bam, bam, ba-dee, bam, bam, ba-dam, 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 bam. We were the first ones downtown who played high society. None of them cats uptown didn't play. Now, when you was learning clarinet, until you learned high society, you weren't no clarinetist. I learned by head at first because I couldn't read those parts, man. That was tough. And then I caught on to it, and then I started getting my little name, Picou was the first one to make it popular. It was a hard thing. Picou was a hell of a musician, He looks like white, too. You couldn't tell him from colored or white. And his brothers, they were all fair. Picou used to live about 3 blocks from me when I was a small kid. And I used to admire this man in his young days. This man played clarinet right. And he wasn't what you call, now, since I'm thinking, he wasn't a gut bucket clarinet player. He played legit, but the notes was right. He never made nothing wrong. And he used to give lessons to us kids, like that. I took lessons with Piku for about a year, off and on. But Teo was my real teacher. He'd be in the next room, but he had big ears, man. He could hear you. If you make a bad, how bad was that you making that? I said, oh, yeah, excuse me. This is hard. He said, no, now, wait a minute. It's not hard. Then he would take his clarinet and come and run over this passage so easy. He said, is that hard? And I'd look, I said, oh, my goodness. He said, you can do the same thing, but you got to practice. When I try to skate a lesson, you take that lesson home, boy, and you learn it. And I would learn it until I memorized the thing. Then I want to jazz it. He said, Albert, no, none of that ragtime. Play the part. I get tired playing the same thing over. After you learn something, I was in me to try to change it, No, don't you change that. You play what's on that paper there. Papa Teo and his son, they were first-class musicians. Those cats could read backwards, man. Because I remember young Teo used to take a violin part and transpose it at sight. Now, that's hard. And didn't miss a note. Papa was the one who used to whip him when he was small to make him. So he was a natural musician. He could take any part you put up there, any part, and transpose it right and never miss a note. That's another study. That man was a musician. No, Teo was something else. No. In those times, you had no amateurs. You couldn't play in a band till you knew your instrument. But you get a chance when you're coming up to play with the older fellas. It's like my father. They would correct you and tell you, hey, you must study your lesson, boy, and things like that. I mean, you got to learn. You got to get with it. And I didn't expect to play music for no living, I was learning to make cigars when I was a kid and all like that. Most musicians had two trades. They were painters, they were blacksmiths, they were tailors, and they played music for their pleasure. It wasn't the money. They played for their kicks. Jelly Roll, he was before me, you see. I didn't see Jelly until I came to Chicago in 1924. But I heard of Jelly Roll. We used to call him Whining Boy. He was sharp, And then I said, oh, that's Jelly. He left before I was a small kid. He was the first one to leave New Orleans. He was in California and all over. You see, the district was open then. Tenderloin district was open. He played in those private houses, sporting houses, they call them. And those were $50, $100 houses, nothing but those big shots that go there used to entertain them, you know what I mean? And that making $50 a night in those days, that was plenty of money, man. And he was always sharp and everything. And Jelly came back. He went to Chicago and New York and all like that. But Jelly was a pioneer of jazz. We were recording with Jelly in 1939 in New York, and the band came, and Jelly was at the piano writing out some parts, and Red Allen, trumpet player, he liked to kid around. He said, Jelly, what you got for us, man? Jelly said, well, never mind. Just in a few minutes you'll get your part and you'll see what it is. So we laughed and joked a while, and then he passed out the parts, and we ran down just for sound. I said, man, this ain't bad. What do you call it, Jelly? This is Sweet Substitute. had special tunes to cut with. You see, we'd be advertising for a ball at night, always on a Sunday, these contests. Our band would start downtown, we go uptown. The uptown bands would come downtown. We're looking for each other. Now when we find this band, they get by a bar on the corner, a famous corner, say like Dumaine and Claiborne, that's our territory. And say like it was Orris Band or something like that. And Buddy would say, turn the hounds loose, man. That means special numbers. He's just a great natural musician. This cat, he didn't make no high notes, but he made everything so round and he didn't miss. And he had changes. And Buddy would hit. And then the crowd would give Buddy a big hand. And the bar man would send out a big thing of beer, you know. I didn't drink no beer at the time. I was too young. But still in all, and they'd drink. And then this band would play one, the other band would play it. But Buddy had a special tune. Only he played it. And man, and that was it. And they scream, and then them cats would drive off, and we win the contest. He used to say, turn the hounds loose. It was something like Tiger Rag or something like that. Everybody was together. Yeah. And on the second course, you hear that rhythm section. That bass and guitar is moving together, and the drums is shuffling, you know. And then he'd start swelling. Then Buddy'd take about 6 choruses, and we softened under him. And this cat would stand up there with his handkerchief and start blowing. And that was it. And the other cats didn't know those tunes, you see. That was our tunes. And things of that sort. Those were popular tunes, and they played them correct from the three changes in there, 3 keys, right. And things of that sort. And it's another one. Oh, I can't think of those tunes. That's I'm talking about 60 years ago, man. That's about that's a long time ago. But these cats had a beat that you very seldom. I don't hear today. They had a natural rhythm, was perfect. It didn't vary. It stayed there. And you could hear everybody in the band, and it was something different. That was music. You see, in New Orleans now, you got these old timers like Jim Robinson and them, Dee and all like that. They're imitators, man. They're imitators. They wasn't known as no musician. Never heard of them. No, they picked up. You see, when jazz got popular, when they got Bunk Johnson to start again after the World War II, they gave him a horn, and the kids start on this thing. George Lewis was not in the picture when I was coming up. I heard him when he came to New York. Jim Robinson, they wasn't playing no bands. Freddie kept it before he came to Chicago. Freddie was a hell of a trumpet player. Freddie was powerful. He passed all them cats, but Freddie was hell too. I caught him in his prime. Lorenzo Starr was something else. He had a tailor shop and played guitar. Ori stole all those titles and put his name on it. And like this thing, Muscat Ramble, that was no Ori's tune. Ori didn't compose nothing. He got that in the band. They made up these tunes. Those were together. Dun 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 boom. But dun 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 doom. But dun 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 dun. If you don't like the way I do, you can kiss my fucking ass. You can, and it swings. And then it started taking choruses, and that was it. I knew Louis when he was 12 years old. When he was Michael Jones, I knew him when he came out. But Louis was something else. And in the 30s and 40s, nobody had no sound like Louis. He kept jazz live. Music-wise, Louis was a hell of a musician, too. And he could memorize. When I was with the big band with Louis during the years in the 30s and 40s, we'd get a new arrangement. Louis would go sit in the corner, and he'd take his handkerchief and put in the bell of his horn, and he wouldn't make no notes. He'd just fingering it and getting it. And Red Allen and the rest of the guys, they'd be fighting the parts over here, trombones over here, the reeds over there, and the rhythm section stays on the bandstand. And Russell would say, ready, Pops? Pops said, yeah, let's go, take it for sound. And Louis didn't miss a note. And then at night, when we play the thing, Louis stands up and play, and remember all those parts. And we had to read for 3, 4 nights to get it, because you're not playing music until you memorize. Because he had parts we had to play with the other trumpets together. And you would hear Louis above the tree, they sound like little boys. Louis was powerful, tone, execution, and he never missed. Because the other guy said, Jesus Christ, how this cat can remember that? He just run over it a couple hours, and he never forget. King Oliver was sort of selfish, but he always respected Louis, and Louis was cutting him, and he knew it. Because I remember one time we played at on the Gold Coast one night in Chicago. This was a long run, 1924. It was a big, it's a big hotel, and we had our arrangements there. And you remember Isham Jones, the College Inn band? It was a nice band. And he told Joe, he said, listen, I'll play all the sweet stuff and you play the other stuff. Joe said, okay. And those cats went on the stand, man, and they started playing our music. You know, number one, they boom, but the imitation. So he said, hey, where's the sweet stuff? What they playing? But Joe was in good form then, this before he had trouble with his teeth. The band was solid. And we got through playing, and we cut them. So then they did go back to their sweet stuff later, but they just wanted to, you know, try to show us off. So around 12 o'clock like that, Joe went to take care of business, you know, and he said, oh, Louis, you take over, you know what I mean, you know. And Joe went to take care of business, and when he came back, Louis was playing first then. You see, he instead of second, and the people were standing around. They said, what? Listen at this kid. And when Pops was in good form, we were playing Butter and Egg Man and Poor Little Rich Girl. That's a tough tune. When we came back, Louis was gone, and Joe, he was kind of evil. I noticed it. And he told Louis, he said, hey, you didn't have to play that. Louis said, well, they asked me for it. You know, Pops, you know, they asked me for it. You know. He said, yeah. And he took the music and he tore it up. And he never played it anymore. And another tune came out. There was the Wops Blues. It was an Italian trumpet player with Isham Jones who composed the Wops Blues. He was a hell of a first trumpet player. We got the music, and Joe kept stumbling and missing it. And Louis said, hey, Pops, let me try it. So Joe handed him the music, and Louis didn't miss a note. And when we got through, he tore it up. No Wops Blues. That was Joe Oliver. I made a little tour with Joe and Louis before the big band. Before we had 3 saxophones, we had 2. And we had a nice band. Then I went back. I stayed in Chicago about 3 or 4 months. When the little gigs went out, I went on back and formed my little band at Anderson. And Jimmy Noon was the cause of us 4 coming to join King Oliver next year. And Louis was with King Oliver at the time. I was in King Oliver's band then, and Bessie Smith came at the theater on 31st and State. Then she gave a concert one night at the Elks Hall. They didn't have no mic. The microphone was just coming out, that's right. And they had one microphone, and it was making noise, you know, go up and down and scratching. She took it, she put it on the side. You don't need that thing. And that woman's voice filled up that house. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't believe it. I heard her 2, 3 times. She had a powerful voice and not loud. She didn't sing harsh, but with such volume. You like Mahalia Jackson? That's another one. That volume. That's a different sound, baby. That's something else. She was a natural. After Louis left the band to go with Fletcher, we had Bob Schaffner. He was a hell of a musician. Bob taught me a lot too in the band because, those arrangements was difficult. Jelly was the biggest critic. He told Joe, if you're trying to play his tune, he said, "Oh man, you ain't got it yet," and things like that. So he tell you to your face, he said, "You ain't playing it." But about 4 or 5 months later, we got to swinging and playing. Jelly came. We said, "Man, now you're playing. Now you're playing." Well, that was, rehearsing every day. And Joe knew what he wanted. He wanted to hear those feet on the floor. He was dancing in those times. The public was dancing. And Joe wanted to hear the band. It's like Buddy Petit's band. Full. He don't want to hear no one or two. He want to hear the band. Now, that part I respect him. He was a hell of a leader. We had one of the best reed sections in Chicago because when Fletcher came through that, he was amazed. When Hawk and them, they came to the plantation, and we would play. They say, "What? Man, it's not those cats." And he could see, too, with that one eye. He could see, man. He could see. He could peep. No, I caught him in his prime, man. I know this man when he was really playing. And they copied that mute from him. That Harmon's mute is made from him. At the Dreamland, where Jimmy Noon and Freddie Kemper and Charlie Cook were playing, he got the patent of this wah-wah mute to imitate Joe. Joe just had a metal mute in his hand. He makes all that with his hand. He didn't use no wah-wah. And Joe never did use no wah-wah mute. He'd take his big black hand and put over that bell of that trumpet and talk. Joe always was talking that trumpet. We had one tune we used to call Smack the Baby's Ass. That was one of them. That was a funny tune. And Joe used to, the people stopped dancing. They'd look at him. Yum, 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 yum. They make the baby cry, the baby laugh, and the band is swinging. And he make all these funny sounds just with his hands. We had a good learning in Chicago. When we came to with Russell, we had our sound, and that was a natural. And we had a hell of a good band, if you remember. That was a good band Russell had, because Duke Ellington told Russell, don't never stay with what you're doing there. Don't fool around with nothing else. But later on, we had to change our music, time is creeping on you. We had 2 weeks off because we were working the whole year at the Saratoga Club. When we leave there, we make the tour for Lower State theaters for about 3 weeks. Come on back to the Saratoga. Then we go to Roseland Ballroom. We stay 2 months. Come back to the Saratoga Club. No, for a whole year, not a day off. So finally, we say, Russell, we tired. Let's take a rest. So we stopped, put another band in our place for 2 weeks. Jelly heard about that we were going to relax. Then he booked some one-nighters. And his name was big. He said, listen, Russell, I want to use your band. I'm going to pay you to stay home. That's Jelly, He said, I'm going to pay you to stay home. I'll pay them in. He didn't say how much we were getting. Then he said, I'm going to pay them in. I'll take him on a little tour. It's all right. Russell said, yeah. And we all were glad, So we made one rehearsal with Jelly, most of his tunes. And then we got that down. We cut his music. Then we played our stuff. So we went to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. and we opened up. And I remember this night very well. Jelly had been there before. His band was a little weak when he was there before. He didn't draw too well because with Jelly, he said, "Oh yeah, don't tell nobody who you are, what band, and that, you know what I mean. I mean, it's my everybody. Say this is Jelly's band, you know." So we came in that afternoon, and the man didn't know us. So Jelly said, "Well, I'm packing in tonight." The man said, "Oh, Jelly, come on, you said that before, man. If you bring me 100 people in here tonight, I'll be happy." Jelly said, "No, I'm gonna pack it. And tomorrow night, we would have 2 nights there." He said, "Tomorrow night, you're gonna have the cops there to keep the man laughed. He said, "Oh, Jelly, come on now, come on." He said, "All right, you'll see." And that was a funny place. It was in a park, and the windows were open, and the public don't come in until they hear you. You know, in the summertime. If you got something awful, then they'll come in. If not, they don't bother. And when we got on the stand and opened up, they said, "What?" So the word got around. Jelly's got a band in there. And it was around 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock, the place, I don't know what they got on the telephone or something, it was packed. It was full, and the man is looking around, and Jelly said, "You see what I told you? I told you." He said, "But that's a hell of a band. Where did you get that band?" Jelly said, "That's my band." So the man said, "Jesus Christ." He said, "But tomorrow night, you're going to have to keep him in line." Well, the next night, the place was packed before we got in because, you see, they knew we were there for 2 nights. It was happening that first night. And when we came on the job, it was full. And they had a line outside, and the cops was trying to keep the people. No more can't get in. That was it. 400, 500 people, it's full. You can't get in. And they was, man, trying to, Jelly said, "You see what I told you?" And the man want to hire him. Well, listen, Jelly, when can you come back? Jelly said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm booked out." We said, "Now listen, I'll give you more." Jelly said, "It ain't the money, man. I'm booked out. You didn't hire me before, you see." But we only could stay, and make this little tour. And every place, the word got around that Jelly had a hell of a band. And they didn't know it was Louis Russell's band, because Louis Russell was broadcasting, you see. And that was a funny thing. And every place we go, the word got around. And I tell you another thing, he was really a great artist. Jelly Roll, I'll never forget him. He was like my dad. He played, and you had to play right with him also. He didn't like no fooling around. If you make a bad note, he'll stop the band and tell you, "Hey, look out there, man. Is that on that paper?" And he was a great guy, and I have the greatest admiration and respect for him. Now, as far as jazz is concerned, I'm going to play what I'm playing, what I've learned to play all my life. I don't want to get hung up in none of this way out stuff that I don't like, because there's no beat to it. And anytime you can't pat your foot by music, to me, it don't tell me nothing. It's got to swing. They call it swing now, but it's something that's in you. You got to project something to the public for the public to feel something too. Now, I like modern also, but when it's moving, this modern, like Parker and those cats, they play it, baby. No use getting around it. They play music. Yeah. I love all these sounds. Yeah. Artie Shaw was my favorite in the 30s. I liked Jimmy Dawson too, could play her. And Benny Goodman, he blew, man. They played. They were solid musicians, you know. And Irving Fazol was my man. That's really New Orleans. Oh, he was a natural. He was like us Creoles. And who else? You got one that's down there now too. It's got a club in New Orleans. Pete Fountain. He blows. He blows. You got a few that's blowing. They got all kind of jazz there, but it's good. Even old timers, people are crowding this little place at this Preservation Hall. I never seen so many people paying $1 admission, and the man is asking, "Please go so others can come in." That's every night. Every night is like Saturday night. That's New Orleans. They're playing my music. I know that. I was raised with that. You know what I mean? It's natural. Good jazz will never die. Sally down, bonjour. Sally down, laissez-moi voir, toto. Sally down, bonjour. Sally down, laissez-moi voir, toto. Si vous priez pour moi, quelli dans un fricassé. Pas oublier de mettre la sauce tomate avec un gros galon de vin. Sally down, bonjour. Sally down, laissez-moi voir, toto. Mais qui vous dit qu'on est aller là-bas? Les oignons to the bon marché. C'est ici, c'est lisa, Marco, Merco, Nelly, do. Les oignons to the bon marché. C'est ici, c'est lisa, Marco, Merco, Nelly, do. Pour coucher, oui, madame. Pour pas monter, non, madame. Bill Calatu Show. 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 Bill Calatu, Bill Calatu. Show. Bill Calatu, Bill Calatu, Bill Calatu Show. Bill Calatu Show. Bill Calatu Show. Bill Calatu, Bill Calatu, Bill Calatu Show. How long, how long that evening train's been gone? How long, baby? How long? Baby, how long?